Pre-IND analytics is one of the most misunderstood stages in drug development. Many teams approach it with the wrong mindset. They either do far too little, or they do far too much, and both approaches create unnecessary risk and delay. It's a classic Goldilocks problem, but getting it just right is key. Many analytical decisions at the pre-IND stage are driven by fear. Fear of getting tough questions from the FDA. Fear of appearing unprepared or not knowing an answer. Fear of having to redo work later on. That fear often shapes the analytical strategy far more than the actual scientific need at this early stage. This leads to overinvestment in the wrong areas and underinvestment in what truly matters. But here's the reality. The FDA is not asking for perfection at the pre-IND stage. They are not expecting the level of control or validation you'd be. In late-stage development, what they are looking for is your understanding of the molecule, your awareness of the potential risks, and credible scientific reasoning behind your decisions. They want to see that you're thinking critically. So, what is the real purpose of pre-IND analytics? It's all about supporting a safe entry into first-in-human studies. The goal is to demonstrate that the key risks, those related to safety, purity, and identitas, have been identified, thought through, and are being responsibly managed. It's a scientific story, not a final report. A common misunderstanding is believing that pre-IND analytics must look like Phase 3 analytics. Teams often assume their early work must already resemble a commercial-ready package. They try to validate everything to the highest standard, set extremely tight specifications, and generate massive amounts of data to prove everything is perfect. But this is a problem. At the pre-IND stage, manufacturing processes are still evolving. The formulation you use in your first clinical trial might not be the final one. The analytical methods themselves are often still being refined. Forcing late-stage rigor too early creates false expectations and locks teams into assumptions that may not hold up as you learn more. It creates a brittle foundation instead of a flexible one. So, what does the FDA actually evaluate? They typically look at whether your methods are scientifically sound for their intended purpose. They check if your data is internally consistent and if your conclusions match the maturity of the program. Alignment matters much more than the sheer volume of data you present. It's about demonstrating a thoughtful, phase-appropriate approach. This brings us to the fit-for-purpose concept. At the pre-IND stage, your analytics must be fit for their purpose, which is to ensure patient safety in early trials. This means they shouldn't be exhaustive or over. They just need to be sufficient to support decisions about safety and to guide your next steps. Let's take impurities. For example, at pre-IND, the FDA typically wants to understand a few key things. Do you know what the major impurity species are? Have you identified any obvious safety concerns, like genotoxic impurities? And do you have a clear plan to evolve your impurity control strategy as development progresses? They don't expect you to have identified and characterized every single trace impurity. The same logic applies to your analytical methods. At this stage, your methods do not require full, late-stage validation according to ICH guidelines. They simply need to be reliable and appropriate for their intended use, which is mainly to confirm the identity, purity, and strength of your drug product for early clinical studies. And what about specifications? Specifications at pre-IND are usually provisional. They should reflect your current understanding of the process and the product, not the final commercial limits. What matters most is the rationale behind how those limits were chosen. Can you defend them based on batch data, stability data, and safety considerations? Ultimately, what matters far more than data volume is clarity. You need to have clear assumptions, be transparent about the limitations of your data and methods, and present a clear plan to close any knowledge gaps over time as the program matures. A well-reasoned argument is more powerful than a mountain of uninterpreted data. From the FDA's perspective, reviewers understand that early-stage programs are full of uncertainty. They expect it. What raises a red flag is not the uncertainty itself, but when teams appear unaware of their own uncertainties or can't explain their plan for managing them. Confidence comes from acknowledging what you don't know, not pretending you know everything. So the core takeaway is this. Strong pre-IND analytics doesn't eliminate uncertainty. Instead, it makes that uncertainty visible, manageable, and credible. It has that credibility that builds trust with regulators and allows your program to move forward with confidence. In the next video, I'll talk about how analytical choices made around the IND submission can quietly determine your Phase 1 timeline, long before the clinic even begins. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.